So, 1 Chronicles 14. Starting in verse 1. Yeah, I don't even know if this is on. It's on? Okay. I'll talk closer to it then. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and timber of cedars and masons and carpenters to build him a house. Now this shows where David has come from, because people had no respect for Saul and his kingdom. All they gave Saul was strife and war and but this shows, because other people are giving David things, it shows, one, they may have a little fear of what David's done and fear of God, the God he serves. Another, yeah. Another, they might just have a respect for David and the God he serves. It's one of them two things. Either way, it shows where David came from. He was just a shepherd boy, and now he's respected by kings of other lands. And now David struggled to the throne. He had a struggle to the throne. He had to wait 40 years first until he was probably about 15, so he probably had to wait. Let's see, that's about 25 years at least. And it could have been a little longer. He could have been 10 when Samuel came. Or he could have been a little older. It's just an estimate. But when Saul died, he didn't immediately become king. Saul had a son still left who Abner tried to cause trouble, Saul's uncle, trying to get this guy up. It shows that family had no concern with what the Lord wanted. Because if Abner had concern, he would have just let David be king like God wanted him to. But now the people of the world are accepting David as king. Not just the people of Israel. Because when there was a time where the kingdom was divided, because David was king of Judah and some, and then he eventually became the king of the other 10 tribes too. But there for a time, Abner set up that Saul's son, so there was division. Well, the divisions here is gone, and the countries came back together, so it's something that others respect. Unity is people's strength. Unity, as long as the church is united together, there's strength. But as soon as they get all these factions and separations, it's ground for the devil to attack. Yep. And David perceived that the Lord had confirmed him as king over Israel, for his kingdom was lifted up on high because of his people, his people Israel. Now, David earns a lot of respect from the other worlds, so much that Solomon don't have to fight a single battle during his whole time being king at all, because the people are so respected of the God they serve and kind of fearful of him, because they know if they stand against the God of Israel that they're going to fall. If they stand against the people of Israel, they're going to fall, because God is on their side. And when the Lord's on our side, they ain't nothing going to really defeat us. I mean, that ain't saying things are going to be easy. Solomon had his struggles. Most of them he brought on himself. No, so we'll still have our own struggles, but when we rely on Him, we can overcome anything. Okay, picking back up in verse 8. And when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over all Israel, and all Philistines went up to seek David, and David heard of it and went out against him. Philistines and Israelites had battles for years. From the time of the judges, when they first started, Samson started first fighting them. And Saul ended up dying in a battle with the Philistines. David finally puts that away. I don't think they battled the Philistines again after David. However, the Philistines still remain. They just don't wage war against Israel. It's usually people from the outside coming in from other places. And the Philistines came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim and made a raid. And David inquired of God, saying, Shall I go up against the Philistines? And I will deliver them into my hand. And will you deliver them into my hand? And the Lord said to him, Go up, for I will deliver them into your hand. So David, unlike Saul, by the end, he just went to battle. He didn't consult God, and that was part of the reason why his dynasty ended with him. But here David goes to the Lord before he does anything. He asks if he should before he goes and does. Now David, if the Lord said don't go, David wouldn't have fought. He ain't asking just to get permission. He's actually asking to see what the Lord's will is. Sometimes Saul, for instance, sometimes he might have asked, and then he might have got the answer no, and he said, well, let's just do this anyway. And that was part of his problem. It shows that David's kingdom isn't under David. It's truly under the Lord. So that's the distinction between them two kingdoms. Saul followed the Lord at first, but then Saul followed what Saul wanted to do. And we should seek what the Lord wants from us. Continually seek what the Lord wants from us. Because if we're following His will, it's going to be the best outcome that He could have for us. Verse 11. So they came to Baala Perazim, and David smote them there. Then David said, God has broken in upon my enemies by my hand like the breaking of waters. Therefore they called the place Baala Perazim. Okay. David gives credit to the Lord. He doesn't take credit for by himself, or gives credit to his soldiers. Now, they did their work, but he knows they won by the hand of God. God deserves all the credit. We as Christians shouldn't accept praise from man, but give praise to God, because the praise we get is just going to the blessings of heaven to come. The heavenly rewards are far greater than what man can praise us. And man truly ain't worthy of praise. So David turns around and praises God. He knows that God's with him and God prevailed. And when they had left their gods there. Okay, this is talking about the Philistines' gods, not. And David gave a commandment, and they were burned with fire. So he destroys all these idols, these Philistine idols. So Joshua, when he first comes in the land, he destroys every idol he comes across. Now, Joshua, the problem is, Joshua didn't live long enough to conquer every bit of the land. He conquered it where all the tribes could move in, and from there, it was their responsibility to take the rest of the land. Well, most of them didn't take the land like they were supposed to. So there was still these idols around. But Joshua gave the command, it was given from the Lord and through Joshua to the people, that when you come across these idols, you destroy them. Because these idols always left temptation. It always left something for them to go serve. That wasn't the Lord. It was leaving their temptation out there. And because they left them, oftentimes they fell to these idols. Because they refused to destroy them, they started serving them in times. And the Philistines yet again spread themselves abroad in the valley. So the Philistines move out, they kind of retreat, and regroup elsewhere. Therefore David inquired again of God, and God said to him, "Go not up after them, turn away from them, and come up upon them on the opposite the mulberry trees. And it shall be when you shall hear a sound of going into the tops of the mulberry trees, that then you shall go out to battle, for God is gone forth before you to smite the host of the Philistines." So God gives him a direct, not only tells him to go, but he tells him how to go. If David would have went and not followed God's instructions, he would have failed. Sometimes God just tells us to go. Other times God tells us where to go. When he tells us to go, we need to go. If he don't give us direct where to go, we might have options of where to go, and he lets us choose it. But if he tells us where to go, like he did with David here, we need to go where he wants us to go. Because otherwise it ain't going to be the same success if we go somewhere else. And if David did this another way, he would have lost the battle. David therefore did as God commanded him, and they smote, and the host of the Philistines were given to Gazer. So Gazer was a city of the Philistines. Gibeon was a city of Judah. So they drive them all the way back home. They're no longer. The war is pretty much done for time. Because during war times they would stay on the battlefield. Well, they're off the battlefield because they're back home. And the fame of David went out into the lands, and the Lord brought fear of him upon all the nations. So because David follows the Lord and has respect for the Lord, the people have a respect for David. If we truly seek the Lord, there's going to be people that respect us. They may not accept the Lord, but they may grow to accept what we stand for, and that we stand for it.